All right, AP World History students, welcome to your 1.3 um, topic, Developments in South and Southeast Asia from 1200 to 1450. Now, sometimes students will think China is difficult to understand. Some of the names are hard to pronounce and whatnot, but for my money, uh, India and Southeast Asia is probably the most difficult of all the areas that we'll cover in AP World History. Now, that may not be the case for you, but typically students kind of fall in line with that as well. So let's talk just a little bit about what we're going to try to do today. We're going to try to explain how the various belief systems and practices of South and Southeast Asia affected society over time. Now, it's important that you know when it says South Asia, what we're talking about. When we talk about South Asia, we are predominantly talking about India. When we talk about Southeast Asia, we're going to be talking about Malaysia and kind of what the Spice Islands and stuff. We'll see some maps in a little bit, kind of show you where Southeast Asia is. We're also going to try to explain how and why various states of South and Southeast Asia developed and maintained power over time. How do they get it? What does it look like? And how do they keep that power over a course of hundreds of years? There are several historical developments. Religion. When we're talking about major religions that are still three of the four biggest religions in the world today. These three plus Christianity are the four largest religions in the world. So it's important to know how they developed, how they spread, and their impact on the society here in South and Southeast Asia. We'll talk a little bit about these movements: the Bhakti movement, which was a softening of Hinduism; Sufism, which was a softening of Islam; and Buddhist monasticism, which is a way of trying to make Buddhists more appealing to the common person. The state formation and development demonstrated continuity. What is continuity? It means things that stay the same. Innovation is different ideas and techniques. And of course, diversity. Diversity meaning different religions or different ethnic groups, things like that, which included the new Hindu and Buddhist states that emerged in South and Southeast Asia. Now, here is a list of some very hard to pronounce names. Some of these are from India and some of these are from Southeast Asia. All these four here, these three right here are from India. Khmer Empire is going to be in modern day Cambodia / Vietnam. Okay, but again, we'll see some maps that'll kind of help us with these empires as we go into more detail with them. All right. Here you see a map of the very, very, very important Indian Ocean trade. Now, we've talked about the Trans-Saharan Trade Network, which would be over here, which connected the Middle East to Africa. This here, you'll notice the central point is India. They're in the middle of all this. China has enormous importance here because of porcelain, tea, silk, all these important items that they have to trade. Okay, India is important because it's centrally located. It has cotton. Cotton is a big export, pearls, spices. Here's the Spice Islands. This is Southeast Asia. This is Southeast Asia. South Asia, Southeast Asia. Okay, East Asia, China. So kind of try to keep those in your mind. And we'll do map activities in class to kind of help drive those home. When we talk about India, we have to talk about the monsoon winds because they're immensely important. When I have students in class, I always emphasize how important geography is to shaping the history of a place. Well, the monsoon winds definitely have an impact here in India. There are winds that blew eastward in the summer, but then westward in the winter. And they're very strong winds. It is, think storms and stuff. But they began mapping out and understanding the monsoon winds. So as they developed better shipping tactics, they were able to use the winds to sail further and more efficiently away from the coastline. Because in the old days, ships had to follow the coastlines when they sailed. If they got out here with no land in sight, oftentimes they could become lost. It's very dangerous. Now, this is the sea version of the Silk Roads. The Indian Ocean trade is. And until the discovery of the New World, it's the largest sea-based system of communication and exchange. I mean, eventually you're even going to get Europeans involved in this. And it's the spreading of cultures and religions and how you do things, languages, everything is getting shared through contact. Uh, Now, this is very cheap to transport goods. This is a lot cheaper than stuffing silk into camels and put them on these camel caravans. You can carry a lot more on the ships. And just like in modern day times, if you buy something in bulk, it's cheaper. So it's the same case here because they could ship it. You could get luxury items for cheaper prices. Traded goods for a mass market rather than just luxury goods like the Silk Roads because of the increased cargo capacity. All that means is that they traded other items that maybe weren't luxury goods because it wouldn't have made sense because the other items wouldn't have fetched as big of a price. But since ships have so much room, it's okay. We can trade other things that aren't necessarily luxury items. And here's a good map that shows the spread of Buddhism. So remember, Buddhism begins here in India, in eastern India, under Siddhartha Gautama. It is, while it incorporates a lot of the same ideas of Hinduism, which is the world's oldest organized religion, which began here in India. And Hinduism had been around already for a couple thousand years before Buddhism, came into being. Buddhism spreads from here into parts of India, all the way out to Japan, as you can see, is about the farthest of its extent. Buddhism is going to be, they're going to do away with a little bit of the caste system stuff, which makes it more appealing to women and to lower class people. Here you can see that Hinduism does spread. Now, it's not very successful spreading anywhere else. Islam is not going to allow it to spread this direction. China does not accept Hinduism whatsoever, and the central nomads of Asia they move more towards Islam than anything else. And even this, most of this will become dominated by Islam before too long, as you can see in this next map. Look at these enormous numbers: 229 million Muslims in Indonesia. All right, so you can see the large percentage of the country's population. 75% of the population of Indonesia is Muslim. Now, here's areas that Islam is not as strong, the lighter colors. So the darker the colors, the stronger Islam is. But even here, it's 50%. Okay, so you can see Islam really makes inroads there. And a lot of that, again, comes down to trade. All right, sea roads do become catalysts for change. It stimulated political changes. Rulers used their wealth, which they took from commerce, trade, to construct larger and more centrally governed states or cities. Um, People like having local authority and autonomy and stuff, but most of the time, countries or empires are more efficient and more successful when they have a stronger centralization, when everything runs through, say, an emperor or whatnot. As a result, these areas also experienced cultural changes. Confucian, China, Hindu, India, Buddha, India, and Islamic ideas flourished and spread throughout the Silk Road, throughout the transatlantic, or throughout the Indian Ocean trade. Um, it's big time. That's how ideas spread in the ancient world. They don't have phones. They don't have the internet. So ideas you get from another place come through traders. New states develop because of the wealth of this trade. There are places that become very wealthy because of their geographical location, such as the Srivijaya Empire. It emerges due to competition between ports along the Mali Peninsula and the coast of Sumatra. And it dominates this critical choke point. So its geographic location is what gives rise to this place. It becomes important. Much like America got its rise from people fleeing Europe for a host of different reasons, which we'll talk about next year, of course. So factors that led to their growth: they had a lot of gold. They have all these spices. Remember the Spice Islands: cloves, nutmeg, and mace. You have no idea how important spices are to the foods that you guys eat every single day. And especially like Europeans and people who are far away from these spices, once they had them, they had to have them. Once you've experienced these spices, your food without them is incredibly bland. So the Europeans are paying a pretty high price for these goods. They created a bureaucratic government with military and naval forces that could secure the seas. All it means is they spent good money to protect their location because that was where their wealth derived from. All right. So you can pause this, take a second. Can you answer these questions? All right. So you can pause it right here. Try to answer those questions. All right. The Khmer Kingdom, as I mentioned earlier, is modern day Cambodia, a little bit into Thailand, a little bit into Laos, and almost to Vietnam over here too. It was founded in 802. It had a lot of Indian influence on it. A lot of Buddhism and Hinduism those ideas had spread to the Khmer Empire. Angkor Wat, which is a really incredible place we're going to look at in more detail in class, was dedicated to the Hindu god Vishnu. Remember that Hinduism is a polytheistic religion, meaning that it has many gods. In fact, it has thousands. Social system was not subject to the caste system in this area. That is a break from traditional Hinduism. The caste system is something that stays in India. It doesn't, and we don't discuss it in this course anymore because it happened before 1200. But the caste system is when you hear it, you're going to associate it with India. It doesn't really spread anywhere else because no one else wants it. The Khmer Kingdom reached its peak in 1219 and would gradually decline after that. Here is a very small photo of Angkor Wat. We're going to visit it virtually. It's an incredible place. It is one of the more fantastic temples in existence. All right. And here it's asking you, do you see some influences of Hinduism? But you guys aren't really strong on Hinduism because we don't teach the beginning of it anymore in this course. All right. Here is just kind of an overview look, the global tapestry, if you will, of Southeast Asia. You've got the Khmer with Angkor Wat right here, and you've got Muslims up here. You got the Vijayanagar Empire down here, which is kind of an interesting story as well. We'll talk about it a little bit later. All right. Can you answer these questions about the Khmer Empire? You can pause it and try to answer them. Hint, if you don't know them out top, go back to the previous slides and find the answers. All right. Sufis. Remember that Sufis were Muslim missionaries. They have this enormous impact because they're more malleable. They're more able to work with native peoples. They emphasize a personal experience of the divine rather than law. With the traditional Muslims, everything was based off of Sharia law. And these ulama, these Islamic scholars, they're sort of like lawyers, and they would travel around and they would hear cases, and they would simply look at the Quran and say, well, this is what it says to do. This is Sharia law. Whereas the Sufis, sometimes they're more of like, you just need to have a personal relationship with Allah. And because of that, they were often condemned by the more traditional Ulamic people. Now, the Bhakti movement, again, it's a softening of Hinduism and becomes popular in the 1100s. It starts in southern India. And, where Hinduism has thousands of gods, the Bhakti movement is encouraging people to kind of choose a single deity. And that's a lot easier for people to manage, one or two deities rather than this huge pantheon of gods and goddesses. But it was also popular because it didn't discriminate against women like Hinduism did, or poor people like Hinduism did. And its inner reflection could get you closer to that deity. It created a surge in Hindu literature and poetry at the time. Now, the Chola dynasty originated here in this river valley in the Kaveri. It even outlasted Ashoka, who was this awesome and very powerful emperor of the Mauryan Empire during the classical age of India, which, again, we don't talk about that anymore, but it'll be in this area here. The Chola dynasty took key maritime trading posts from the Srivijaya Empire in what's now Indonesia. This enabled a rich cultural transfusion in both directions. The Chola actually sent diplomats and trading missions all the way to China in the Song dynasty. They had all these awesome architectural accomplishments. They had artwork, and they influenced religious art and literature from Cambodia all the way to Java. So they're impactful. Think of this as if this was America. In Europe, if you cross the Atlantic, Europeans are watching American shows. If Mexicans are watching American shows, we have an impact, we have influence. And that's how it was with the Chola dynasty here. The Vijayanagar Empire is southern India. You need to remember that. And it's kind of neat because they here in the north you have the Sultanate of Delhi up here, Muslims, and they send two of their guys down south to treat with them. And these guys who have been born Hindus but converted to Islam because it was convenient, when they go south, they convert back to Hinduism and they get involved in founding the Vijayanagar Empire. Now they have contact with the Muslims to the north that is fairly productive. There's not massive killings or anything like that. Sanskrit, which is the language, was encouraged as a unifying force, and regional literatures thrived in the Vijayanagar Empire. It resisted Islam. That's one of the things that's notable about it, and it basically allowed Hinduism to survive. It attempted to preserve the ancient tradition of the country. Yeah, these Rajput kingdoms, also in India. 12 million landowners organized in patrilineal clans. Patra, anytime you see this root word, it means father, lineal. So they're tracing their ancestorship through their father's side. Just like typically we do the same thing. We trace through both, but we know that mostly women take their husband's last names. So you see some patrilineal stuff here in America. Yeah, the Delhi Sultanate, which of course, you associate them with being Islam, Muslim. They were Turks that came in from these areas and conquered these people. The early rulers were best known for their destruction of Hindu, Buddhist, and Jainist temples. Um, Muslims aren't playing that game. They don't want them around, so they're destroying those temples and replacing them with Islamic mosque. The greatest contribution to Indian fine arts, however, was the introduction of architectural features such as domes and arches, and the integrated Indian and Islamic styles of architecture. When you think of India and its most famous architectural piece is the Taj Mahal, and you see that blending of Islamic and Hindu architecture there. Majapahit, it's also a significant power in this region. It's here in the Southeast Asia and all these islands, Spice Islands. The spread of Islam and the rise of the Islamic states eventually brought this Majapahit era to an end in the late 1400s, about the time that the Age of Exploration is happening and the Europeans are awakening and all that good stuff. You also had the Sinhala dynasties, where Buddhism was brought there first. I don't necessarily expect you to remember Sinhala, just that it's a Buddhist stronghold in that mess over there, Southeast Asia. Rice cultivation continues as a mainstay of agriculture. Um, Here's another one that's a big name. That's if you see a name like this, your brain should tell you Southeast Asia. More than that, that's the easiest way to remember because you're not going to remember all of these. There's some big ones. You got to know Vijayanagar. You got to know the Sultanate of Delhi, of course. But a lot of these other smaller ones, it's going to be pretty much impossible for you to remember. All right, here's some cultural interactions. Arabic numerals. Um, that's a big one, bringing their number system into Southeast Asia. You get a blending of Hindu art and Islamic architecture. You see some pretty neat buildings here with the domes and arches. Um, you get a syncretic member as a blending. Hindi, Arabic, and Farsi. Um, all three different languages mixed together, written left to right. Okay, so here's a little short summary that South and Southeast Asia is a place where three religions converge. They come together: Islam, Hinduism, and Buddhism. So they absolutely have to know that. Um, Focusing on these areas in this period, 1200, 1450, is something super rare. They defeated or defended against the Mongols. The Mongols, which are so fun to study about, they create the largest land empire in history. And uh, India is a place, and uh, Thailand and Vietnam and the jungles are a place that are actually able to defeat the Mongols. So they are rare in that. India is dominated by Hinduism, but in this period, they will be ruled by the Muslims. Um, the number is 75-25. About 75% of the Indian population is Hindu, about 25% of the population is Muslim. But in this time period, a lot of the ruling will happen under Islamic rule by the Sultanate, by the Delhi Sultanate. So keep that in mind. Your big world travelers hit both South and Southeast Asia during this period. Zhangxi, which is the sailor, we'll talk about him a little bit later, the sailor for the Chinese during the Ming Dynasty in the Age of Exploration. Marco Polo, who you've heard of, he's from Europe. He's going to travel to China, but he goes through all these places as well in South and Southeast China. And the one that will be new to you, but is maybe the greatest traveler of all, is Ibn Battuta, who is the Muslim representative. All right. Sadly, this is the end of independence in this area for a very long time. In 1498, the Portuguese conquistador Vasco da Gama, who we'll talk about later, opens the door for Europeans to begin their domination of this region. And you will see that. And we will talk about later on the reasonings for why Europeans come to this area. All right, that's it, guys. There's a lot of big names and a lot of big words there. Remember the big ones that we focused on a little bit: Sultanate of Delhi, Vijayanagar, the Khmer Empire, the Chola dynasty. Really, those are the big ones. You can kind of lump the other ones into the Spice Islands. They were important because of trade. And remember that there was a lot of a diffusion of religion in this time period. All right, thanks for listening, and I'll see you in class.